yes, we've all gone bananas. The GOP's MAGA bananas today. Oh yeah, the GOP's MAGA bananas today. Oh yeah, the GOP's MAGA bananas today.
Hello, welcome to. You know, we had issues. We had emails on this, so I don't even know what to say.
I think it's Dude's Process.
Okay, but it was Dude, and then it was Dudes, and then I made an email yesterday that was Dude, so I don't know what the hell are we going to call it.
Oh, that's right. I think we decided Dudes.
It went back to Dudes?
We are two dudes.
Okay. Welcome to Dude's Process. I'm Matt.
And I'm Grady.
And today we're going to process yet some more interesting political things that are going on in the news.
Well, we're giving our opinions about it.
We're giving our opinions on the latest things that have happened in the news, with specifically, I think, with regards to the 46th, is that right? The 46th president of the United States.
Well, it depends on...
Hey, put them on your head, Grady.
You got it.
Yeah, you got to put them,
Okay.
on top of your head.
Better. Yeah, I guess that's what he calls himself. But
Right.
I think that he wants to be, maybe the 46 would be the last number, because he would just stay there for forever.
Oh my goodness.
That's what I hear.
So we might have just had 46 presidents in the history of the country.
Right. And, you know,
Wow.
we could go right into this.
Okay.
We've got some news to talk about. Sending in the Marines to Los Angeles, and we can certainly talk about that. I'm sure there are other things like his handing Ukraine over to Russia.
Right.
Russia wants to take it, but
Right.
it's interesting that Ukraine, is sort of putting a black eye on Russia every time they think they can do something. Ukraine attacks them in Siberia with their drones, which I think is pretty cool. But talking about our greatest president ever, which I think is what Trump has called himself recently.
Right.
I thought we ought to come up with some names for him if he's going to be a permanent leader, permanent president.
You're anticipating that these would be, after he refuses to leave office, that this would be his name.
Well, he thinks he's going to be allowed to stay.
Right.
And he's even implied that many times.
Mm-hmm.
But I did an informal poll.
Okay.
It's not official. It's probably not scientific, but
Not scientific.
I tried out some names as what he should be called, and the first one was the greatest president ever, which is what he's called himself.
That's what he calls himself.
Right, and that got a few plus votes, probably from supporters of
Right.
his. God's chosen leader for life. A lot of the right-wing church people thought that was good.
Yeah.
Then everybody thought maybe both of those had too many words. It was hard to yell, God's chosen leader for life,
Right.
So
It's not easy to call out.
So I tried Big Shot, but he wanted Biggest Shot.
Biggest shot. I can understand him saying that.
But then people thought, well, that's too easy to, for some rowdy person to change it to Biggest Shit.
Biggest Shit.
Just one letter.
Yeah.
But I'll even show this to you.
Yeah.
The leader was Big Orange.
Oh, Big Orange. Is it so? Okay.
So, but if anybody wants to comment on any of those potential names for our president, but I guess we ought to get back to the reason I'm wearing my sunglasses, which I'm going to have to take off soon. We discussed last time that we're trying to be anonymous.
That is true. That's why we're using our first names.
Now, last time we were worried that he might be sending the FBI in or something to shoot us because we were sometimes being critical.
Right.
But now we're worried about him sending in the Marines.
You just said, yeah.
You know, because he's already said that anybody who demonstrates against his policies,
right,
he's got the right to send in the Marines.
He said something about that in the military parade, though, too. He said if there's protesters that he's going to use.
Right. Oh, that's his birthday parade.
His birthday parade.
Yeah. So he really does need to have a short name to go with his birthday parade, because I'm sure they're going to be carrying big posters of his face.
Right.
And Big Orange fits really
Big
good.
Orange. People can just have pictures of big oranges.
I wonder if we had big pictures of his face and with Big Orange underneath, if that would be considered a protest or a praising.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. I don't know if he would take. I don't know.
And whether his low IQ minions would know the difference.
That's true. Maybe they can't tell the difference between an actual orange, which we've covered here before.
Yeah, well, that's right. We're sort of driving that into the ground.
Right.
But we've tried it even with photographs and couldn't tell the difference.
Right.
But
it's imperceptible.
Yeah. I guess we're filling time because I don't know much about what's happened to the Marines once they got to Los Angeles. Have they killed anybody yet?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody's got killed.
And has anybody explained the legalities of his using our military
That's
for
a good question.
Domestic thing?
I know that I saw a picture of the firefighters in Los Angeles joined with the protesters in solidarity.
Oh, good.
And stuff. And I saw a woman who was in the military, protest against her own military by saying, let's all join together. The military is not for our citizens. It's for overseas. It's to protect us.
That's right. In fact, I've understood that's always been the case, that the military, to take military action has to be international, and it's to defend the country, not to defend us against ourselves.
You know what, Grady? I think that's what Newsom is suing for.
Yeah.
I think the state of California is actually suing.
Yeah. And also the governor is the commander-in-chief of the National Guard.
Right.
Although the president does have the right to nationalize the National Guard if the governor refuses to, and if his refusal to is against some federal law.
Right.
And that occurred in Alabama when Governor Wallace stood in the schoolhouse door to keep blacks from attending the University of Alabama.
Desegregation, yeah.
Right. And the Alabama National Guard had to remove him from the door. So I'm wondering I think the District of Columbia has a National Guard. This is just a passing thought.
Yeah.
If Trump refuses to leave, and he is the commander-in-chief of the military, the U.S. military, and he brings the Army in to protect the White House from his being forcibly removed.
Right.
If the commander of the District of Columbia National Guard could remove him.
What? That's interesting. I don't know. But that would be the states. But they would have control. They have power over the National Guard because they are a state. So Washington, D.C. does have a National Guard.
Right. But then D.C. is a federal district. It's not an independent or a sovereign state, as the Southerners like to say.
Yeah.
Well, that's an argument we can make 3.5 years from now.
Yeah, it's going to come.
Yeah. We ought to keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
Because we've got a president that doesn't always think clearly through what he's doing, but so far he's succeeded in a lot of unclear and goofy stuff.
Yes.
Okay, well, shall we follow up on send in the Marines? I guess we don't know much about what has happened.
I'm sorry, Grady. I don't know what much has happened today. I know they have the National Guard, and they sent like 300 Marines, and then he's saying that he might do the same with his birthday/Army parade. But you were saying we were here in a different place from last place because we keep moving our podcast around.
Yes.
We are in a different location.
We should talk about that. We've decided that we are to avoid, being arrested or,
Right.
maybe being shot by a sniper or something.
Yeah.
That we're not only going to broadcast from a different location, undisclosed, of course, but a different country.
Right.
And we thought Spain has been pretty neutral,
Right.
So that's where we are today.
We're in Madrid, actually.
Madrid, right?
Which is actually, if we really wanted to be secretive, we shouldn't say where the fuck we are at all.
Yes.
But this is just, we might not be there.
It's a teaser.
It's a teaser.
Right.
We might be throwing the people off the trail.
And I'm sure that we have CIA and stuff in Madrid. But
Yeah.
they don't know which Madrid we're in.
Well, you said there's a Madrid. How do you say it?
It's in Alabama. In South Alabama, there's a town called Madrid, but they pronounce it Madrid.
Madrid.
Yeah.
Is how they say it.
We could have gone there. But they would.
It's too stinky.
They would call there and say, "Is this Madrid?" And they'd say, "No, this is Madrid."
This is Madrid.
Yeah.
You
so
want to
that
keep
would
going. Go
confuse-
farther.
Right.
Till you get
Right.
to Madrid.
Yeah. And so anyway, we won't disclose where we are in Madrid or even which Madrid we're in.
Right. For safety reasons.
And I'm wearing my sunglasses.
I see.
But they haven't identified you, and you haven't done anything but wear your M hat, which stands for Melody, I think.
Well, you gave me a nice name last time. I think it was Melody. Well, now it could be for Madrid.
But we've decided it's okay to call you Matt.
It's all right. There's lots of Matts.
They don't know your last name.
Oh, I've been on the run from the government for 30 years now.
Right. So you've got a good record.
Yes.
And I'm taking off my sunglasses and taking the risk that I'll be recognized because I have to have my reading glasses.
You got to see,
to
Greg.
see what I'm supposed to talk about.
You have to balance safety and utility.
Right. Right. Those are two hard things
And
to
fashion.
balance
You got to keep all these things.
when you're trying to be anonymous.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard sometimes.
Well, let's talk about the armed forces.
Okay.
Since it happened, I guess it just happened to be on his birthday, or did they decide to make it on his birthday?
I think it's coincided with the Army's anniversary of something.
250 years.
But he's been talking 250 years for the Army, but he's been talking about that in the first term, though, too.
Yeah.
And it wasn't tied to anything. He was was saying like
That's right. So this is like God made his wish come true.
I guess so. Or somebody found an opportunity to wedge these things together and make him very, very happy.
Well, I'm hoping they have these giant portraits of him like they had in Russia.
That would be crazy.
In China.
That would be insane.
Yeah, and
big pictures,
big orange underneath,
and big orange. That might be the thing.
Well, and it's going to be a big parade. Is it in Washington?
It's going to be in Washington. I don't know. I guess it's going to go by the White House, but I do not know, and I'm morbidly interested to see, even though I try to keep this out of my head, if there's actually going to be tanks and all that shit in the street, all the military equipment, like
Chinese missiles and stuff.
Yeah, all those pictures we see
tanks
from
and missiles.
Right. And say, oh, look at this big, beautiful army.
And the big thing now is drones. They could they could have 500 drones, hovering at about 10 feet, that come up the street.
God, that would be horribly.
That's what Ukraine is beating Russia with now, is drones.
That's right. That's
true.
Send
drones all the way to Siberia.
Yeah. You don't got to have a guy in the plane anymore.
And I think it's not illegal to own a drone, so everybody could take their own drone, and join the parade.
Oh my goodness! Now we're getting to dangerous stuff.
If they're going to try to police that.
Oh, they would. I guess they would have to.
Like if they had two drones that carried a banner that said "fuck Trump" or something like that.
They shoot that shit down. Yeah,
they probably would shoot it down.
God,
and then that would probably hit somebody, and
it'd be a disaster.
And then, of course, half the people be carrying guns anyway because they're Americans, and they'd start shooting back.
It sounds like a hell of a parade. This is it's not unlike the Watkinsville Christmas parade, except instead of candy being thrown out to the children,
that's right,
it'll be death and mayhem.
That's right. Grenades,
maybe possible grenade.
I can think of all kinds of bad things that could happen when you do a birthday military parade for a demented president.
Right.
Who has, we established last week that he likes low IQ people to work for him, because that was another issue I wanted to bring up. Since he's a low IQ president, at least that's our opinion, and he wants low IQ people working for him, they have to be lower IQ.
Right. Oh, that's a good
because he
point.
doesn't want anybody smarter than him.
Right. You got to actually find people dumber.
So it's a low IQ president and a lower IQ administration. That's what we're really dealing with.
Right.
I'm trying to come to grips with why everything is so goofy.
You're trying to process, Greg.
I'm trying to process. That's
just what the hell happened.
And we're just a couple of dudes.
We're just a couple of dudes.
We can't.
We're not professional in any way.
Yeah, we can't. Just assume that what we think is the right thing.
Right.
But,
that would be dudes assume.
Yeah.
And we know what they say.
So we're just trying to process.
Right. And we're not trying to assume, because you know what Felix Unger said in The Odd Couple about assume when he wrote it on the bulletin board, on the blackboard, which I'm not going to do.
About making an ass.
When you assume, he wrote it on the blackboard, you make an ass out of you and me.
Yeah.
But we're not dudes assume, we're dudes process.
But we are in our work here, this research. I didn't even get to Wikipedia today, but just observing.
Right.
I think that it's easy to assume that this president is crazy.
Yeah,
and
that's a fair assumption.
Yeah, and of course that's an opinion. We've talked to some psychologists actually, and they're willing to give that opinion.
Right.
But I don't know that that's going to help us in any way.
I don't know. Is it?
But getting back to the parade.
Okay.
Should Trump lead the parade?
Oh God, I don't know.
Or should he stand on a stand and
Oh God, I bet it's that. Yeah. I bet it's going to do that, and he's going to watch
everybody
it.
salutes as he goes by.
That's, I guess, the format of a parade, and like that military parade.
That brings me up to the next question: should he have a uniform? Hitler had uniforms.
Yeah, that would be. Oh wow! Well, imagine if he broke one out. That would be really fucking scary.
And leaders who have a militaristic kind of approach, like to wear uniforms. All the Nazis and Mussolini had really cool uniforms, with hats and all that.
With the hat.
But I'm thinking about Trump's uniform. He's the commander-in-chief.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's a fancy enough title for him.
If he,
is it the greatest commander-in-chief?
He might have to be the most biggest and beautiful commander-in-chief.
Or the most commandingest.
The most commanding chief. The most commandingest, chiefiest.
And then the highest rank you could get in the military is a 5-star general.
Right.
And that was only during wartime.
Right.
But he's said this is wartime now because we're sending in the Marines to.
Yeah.
So, but he couldn't be just 5 stars. He could have 6 stars.
Yes,
which means he'd have to have bigger epaulets on his.
He would have to get
uniform.
he would have to get a big, like David Byrne from the Talking Heads had the big white suit. Yeah. He would have to get a large military uniform
with 6 stars.
With 6 stars
and bigger stars, so people can count them. If they're
absolutely,
watching on TV.
To be the biggest, most beautiful uniform. Yes.
Well, this is something we ought to.
We're going to find out. We're going to see what happens.
We'll find out. Right. And do you think white is the uniform, or should it be gold?
Well, if he was to choose a uniform, it would be gold. But you know what? He's always in those. I think his uniform is his standard suit, which is the friggin' blue
with the big tie,
with the big red tie. And which really irritates me is that I found out. It occurred to me a couple of years ago. It's the same suit that the character from the comic strip The Spirit would wear in the 40s. He would have the blue. It's the same friggin' color. The blue suit, the blue jacket and the blue pants and the white shirt and the big red tie. And he has that, formed around him and draped around him and then cut by a tailor to look like the form of a human being. But I don't know. I would, if I had a bet, I mean, that would be shocking unless he wanted to piss everybody off. But if he was to pick a military uniform, I'm sure he would pick gold.
Well, if he wanted to wear a suit, the long red tie would be big enough to put 6 big stars
it's
on
true,
it.
too. You could just go like that and put it on. Yeah. Put the 6 stars, number 1, maybe a hat with it. I'm number 1.
Yeah. Or just the greatest. Or
the greatest.
Like yeah. Well, I guess that's something that they could figure out.
They're going to have to figure that out.
Personal attire.
Yeah. It's soon, too.
Right. And what about, you think his wife is going to be there?
Oh, God. Who the hell knows? I guess. If she's paid enough, I guess she has to go. Yeah. I mean, she's probably got a contract where she's paid for a certain amount of appearances. She probably said, but maybe it was inclusive. I would imagine that for her to say, if we're going to do another 4 years, I want X amount up front. I'm going to get $42 million. And that includes this and this and that. But maybe she made side deals for appearances or something. Or maybe they have a very lovely marriage. She's a very warm person.
She's doing it for love.
Yes. That's what I think of Melania Trump is. I think of stuff like love and tenderness and not things like hard and cold and callous.
Well, Jackie Kennedy, who was loved, I think, by a lot of people when she married Onassis. Yeah. He had to give her $25 million up front.
What's this now? When Jackie Onassis?
Jackie Kennedy.
Right, Jackie Kennedy was Jackie Onassis.
And she married Aristotle Onassis, who was a sort of a goofy-looking old millionaire from Greece.
This is after
Kennedy died.
Okay, because she wasn't Jackie Onassis. What was her before Kennedy? What was her name before Kennedy?
Bouvier.
Okay, so she was Jacqueline Bouvier.
Right.
Then she was Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy. Then unfortunate stuff happens.
Right.
If you want to call getting your head blown up, unfortunate. Yeah. So what happens? So then she goes to Onassis.
So then Onassis is, as they referred to him as a rich Greek shipping magnate.
Yeah.
And so he decided that and he was older, sort of the last trophy for his case would be to marry Jackie Kennedy. The celebrity wife.
Oh, God.
Widow.
Yeah.
And so he asked her to marry him, and she said, okay, but I want $25 million.
Oh, did she really?
And he actually paid her $25 million.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Boy, nothing says love like $25 million.
Yeah.
It's 20. There's a song.
And that's before inflation.
So so now it's like
probably like $100 million.
$100 million. That's a beautiful love song, Grady. There's 100 different ways 100 million different ways to say I love you.
To buy a lover.
To buy a lover.
But I think also part of the contract was that she had a separate living quarters that he.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
The fucking's got to be in that contract somewhere, though, right? It's got to be, even if it's not published, it's got to be discussed.
He was so old, then maybe it wasn't even an issue.
But still, $25 million. At least, you got to have a hand job every Tuesday or some shit.
Right.
For fuck's sake, man.
Yeah, that was. I was a lawyer then, and I didn't even think of that. That would have been a good thing to put in there.
Oh, it has to. It has to be in there. $25 million, Jesus Christ.
All right.
Good Lord.
But I guess this doesn't have anything to do with our president, except that he has a trophy wife.
Right.
She gets to looking less of a trophy and more of a burden to bear.
Yeah.
But I'm sure she's getting well paid because she doesn't get a salary as first lady.
I guess she doesn't get a salary.
That's been an issue forever for first ladies.
They're
supposed to do a lot,
right?
But they don't get actual salary for doing it. But I'm sure she's getting paid by him.
Yeah.
I don't know if he gets to deduct that.
From his taxes?
Well, I guess he doesn't get to deduct much of anything since it's all provided under the presidential budget.
But he says he foregoes his salary, like.
Well, he said that the first time around. I haven't heard it.
And he never. I think I heard it this time around. But what the fuck difference does it make anyway? Right. He's making millions of dollars off of crypto coins, off of all kinds of bullshit.
That's right, and just manipulating the stock market every
Well,
day.
That's another thing, Grady. Though I look at this as least as possible, but now it seems like Elon Musk called him up and he said, "Oh, I regret what I said." After he said, "Hey, this was." Not to say nothing, but you were in the Epstein files. I called you a child abuser, and then you flew to a plane to fuck kids, and now I'm like, I regret it. Let's be buddies again. Which makes my cynical mind think that in wrestling they have a work, which is called when they have a fake fight between people,
and then they make up.
Did they do it to manipulate the stock market? Are they really hate each other? Who knows?
Oh, I think that Musk, being the richest man in the world, thought that anything he did, he was immune to any issue that would harm him. But he's lost in value probably $100 billion
That's insane.
his Tesla stock.
Yeah.
And this is, this is not just Trump, but the fact that I'm disgusted with him.
Right.
I'm disgusted with Trump and him.
Right.
But I wouldn't buy a Tesla today if they gave it to me.
You wouldn't buy the stock Tesla.
I wouldn't buy the stock either, but I wouldn't buy the Tesla
car.
either because I would just be confirming.
Did you ever see? I saw one in Watkinsville last week. Did you ever see a Cybertruck?
Oh, I did.
The gray ones.
Yeah.
They're very humorous to look on the road.
Somebody called it a cartoonish toy or something like that.
It looks like a fucking. It looks like from a 1990s Nintendo video game. It's it's flat. It looks so out of place in reality that I loathe to see it. When I drove down Main Street in front of Chops and Hops, I was like, oh fucking hell, we do live in this reality. I try to deny that we live in this reality, but we do.
Well, it sure does make our reality here kind of normal compared to what we're seeing, at our federal level.
Oh God, yeah, that's nice and quiet here.
But anyway, we've covered the three issues. The Ukraine we haven't spent much time on, but the only thing I know right now is that Trump, who promised that he would end the war in Ukraine the first day he was served as president, has now said, well, Putin doesn't want to end it, so there's not much I can do.
Right.
Which is a way of saying, I'm just wishing him good luck. And probably is supporting Putin now in some sort of nefarious way. But I'm still pulling for Ukraine. It was Putin that invaded them.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that Ukraine can send his, what do you call them?
Drones. We're just talking about the drones.
His drones all the way to Siberia and attack an airbase, a Russian airbase there.
It's crazy.
So we're pulling for him. And if you are listening to our broadcast, President Zelensky, we're all for you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
What should we end this up with?
I don't know, Grady. What you got?
I guess we could have our comments and opinions about the parade. We'll see that, won't we, in a couple of days?
I guess so. Well, what's today?
Today is the 11th.
So it's the 15th, I think.
Yeah.
So So by next week, if we do one next week, we're gonna have. Oh boy.
So be sure to tune in next week. If you find this week's opinions boring.
Oh no, they're scintillating, Grady. These are scintillating opinions.
Yeah, we got to badmouth two presidents' wives.
Right. Well, I don't know. If it's a business arrangement, I mean, that's common knowledge. I never heard that before. That's not a rumor about Jackie Onassis, is it?
No, that's true. I mean,
It's been reported.
It's been reported, and I think somebody got access to the prenup.
Yeah. Oh, so that would be a prenup.
Yeah,
I guess it would be in a prenup.
Oh gosh, yeah, it was.
But that's almost like a postnup too. A prenup.
Prenup agreement before you enter into nuptials.
Right. Okay. And that's what because usually it's what I get after I got divorced. But this is, I need $25 million up front.
Up front.
Yeah.
Right.
There was Melania Trump definitely got lawyers that work this shit out.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell.
But she's probably wondering if she's being well paid enough at this point.
I
imagine she's has a renegotiation clause.
I bet you for the second term she did, just like an actor for a second movie that is popular in a franchise. This is the most popular fucking thing in since Elvis was this fuck.
And I remember, she was recorded saying, I don't like having to do this Christmas shit.
Yeah. She said, I don't like fucking Christmas.
Is that what she said?
It's something like that. And she had tape on. They had tape of her calling us. I don't know why everybody gets so happy about Christmas.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder why Trump is so down on immigrants.
Yeah.
She's an immigrant.
She's an immigrant, all right, yes. But she's a model immigrant.
An irritating immigrant.
She's an irritating immigrant.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
I wonder if she pays taxes and has a social security number.
I don't know. I don't know if people looked at that. I think they might have looked at that. It's possible she does.
I don't know. I'm just raising.
You don't know. You're just raising the question. Right. You're just saying people have probably asked that question.
Yeah, that's probably.
And you're drawing attention to that.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
That's all you're saying.
She's probably added a lot to the value of American life.
Oh, Grady, when I wake up in the morning, I think to myself, you know what I do is I pray to the Holy Virgin Mother Mary, I pray to the Lord Jesus Christ, and then I pray to Melania Trump. Because it fills me with a warm feeling. She's just like a feeling of love you have. It's very touching to me.
It's not one of these porn fantasies, is it?
No, it's not a porn fantasy. I don't know if I ever want to see Melania Trump in a porn. I think it would be, it would be painful. It would be very angular and cold. She'd be like, hey, fuck. Hey, I don't know.
Maybe we ought to change topics and get back to the military.
Okay, we'll get back to the military. Or you want it? How long we got, Grady?
I think we're about to wrap this up.
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll have a lot more to talk about after the parade next week.
Yes, indeed.
So we can't tell you what location we'll be in.
Right.
It's likely to be in a foreign country.
Right.
And
we're not going to be in the country for the parade, but we're going to watch it on television.
Right. It'll be on worldwide TV.
And report on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll have some real news to report
Maybe we will. And then again, maybe we won't.
Right.
For next time here on Dudes Processing, this is Grady.
And this is Matt.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bananas today, oh yeah, the GOP's MAGA bananas today, oh yeah, the GOP's MAGA bananas today.